They always called me the failure, the one who couldn't measure up, the one who didn't have it together. I'm Emma Harper, the daughter nobody believed in, the girl they laughed at for running a tiny vintage shop, while the rest of them chased big titles and bigger egos. But while they were busy mocking me, I was quietly building something no one saw coming, an empire worth billions. You see, success doesn't always wear a power suit. Sometimes it wears thrift store jeans and a quiet smile. And what I'm about to share with you, it's going to flip the idea of success on its head. I never planned on anyone finding out. Not my family, not my friends, honestly not even the people closest to me. For years, I let the world think I was just a woman running a small, struggling vintage shop in Brooklyn, barely getting by, barely hanging on. They pitied me. They made jokes. At least she's doing something cute, they'd say, like I was playing dress-up instead of building a life. And I let them believe what they wanted, because behind that quiet little storefront I was building something so much bigger. Horizon Capital, a company that now sits among the financial giants of New York. My company, and while they were too busy whispering about my so-called failure, I was sealing deals, making power plays, and outgrowing every limit they'd ever put on me. But keeping a secret that big, it takes something out of you. At first, it felt like freedom, like I had control over the story. But over time, that silence started to feel like chains. It wasn't just about hiding success anymore. It was about hiding who I had become. I remember the day it hit me hardest. I was walking through my shop, pretending to care about what color thread matched a 1970s dress, while my phone buzzed with alerts about a $700 million 0-cents merger I just closed. And I thought, how much longer can I pretend I'm not who I am? There's a kind of loneliness in hiding your wins, when your family still treats you like the one who couldn't make it, even though you're the one holding more power than they could imagine. It eats at you. Every smile I gave at family dinners, every time I let them interrupt me mid-sentence to praise Claire for something far smaller, it chipped away at me. I didn't need them to clap for me, I just wanted them to see me, but they never did. Because I never gave them the chance. And honestly, part of me was scared that if I finally told them, they'd twist it, belittle it, or worse, act like they knew it all along. So I stayed quiet. I kept the truth tucked away like a diamond in my pocket, valuable, heavy, and hidden. But even diamonds start to weigh you down when you carry them alone for too long. My sister Claire never missed a chance to take a jab at me. Every time we were in the same room, it was the same smug tone, the same eye rolls about my little vintage shop. To her, it was a cute hobby, something beneath her glossy corporate world, and for years I let it slide. I smiled through the sarcasm. I stayed quiet through the judgment. But this Christmas, something in me shifted. I'd carried the weight of their disappointment for so long, it had become part of how I walked into a room. That night, though, I stepped inside their house, knowing it would be the last time I played small for their comfort. The moment I heard my mother's voice, I knew exactly where the conversation was going. She didn't even glance in my direction before announcing with her usual flair, "Emma, darling, we were just discussing Claire's latest promotion at Sterling & Pierce. She's now the Senior Vice President of Operations." The words hung in the air like ornaments on a tree, shiny, meant to impress, carefully placed for maximum effect. I nodded, smiled, and played my part. "That's wonderful, Claire," I said, even though I already knew the truth. The promotion meant nothing. The company she was so proud of, Sterling & Pierce, was mine now. But I didn't say that. Not yet. Claire didn't even look up from her phone. "Thanks," she said, like it was nothing, like the whole room didn't orbit around her every career move. I sat there, feeling that old ache crawl up my spine, the one that whispered, "You'll never be enough for them," the one that grew louder with every joke they cracked about my shop, every condescending glance they shared when I mentioned work. And still, I said nothing. My chest tightened, not from shame, but from the weight of the truth sitting just beneath the surface, waiting for its moment. I looked around that room, at people so sure of who I was, and I realized they didn't know me at all. The irony was almost too much to carry. Sitting there, across from Claire, my sister, who never saw me as more than the girl who ran a vintage shop on a quiet Brooklyn street, I couldn't help but feel the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. She had no idea that her less accomplished little sister was also the CEO of Horizon Capital, a company quietly pulling strings behind some of the biggest financial deals in New York. I had lived two lives for years. In one, I smiled politely at family dinners, deflected questions about my cute shop, and listened to advice I didn't ask for. In the other hand, I signed off on billion-dollar acquisitions and sat across from CEOs who knew me by name and by reputation. My heart was pounding that night, not from fear but from the pressure of carrying something so big, so true, for so long. I knew I couldn't keep it in anymore. Tonight would be the night everything changed. And yet, there I was, still nodding along while Claire soaked in praise and Mom poured another glass of wine. My dad's voice sliced through the room like it always did, measured, smug, and laced with his usual brand of superiority. Claire's division handled $3 billion in transactions last quarter, he said, swirling the scotch in his hand like the numbers made it taste better. Everyone nodded, impressed, eyes lighting up like they were watching the future unfold in front of them. Then he turned to me. Maybe it's time you thought about getting a real job, sweetheart. His tone wasn't cruel. That's what made it worse. It was casual, thoughtless. He didn't say it to hurt me, he truly believed it. And that hurt more than anything. I swallowed hard. The same morning he'd eaten breakfast, I had closed a deal worth more than Claire's entire company. But to him, I was still the daughter playing dress-up with thrift store clothes. I looked around the room and felt the heat rise behind my eyes. Not anger, Clarity. They had created this version of me. This tiny, harmless girl with soft ambition and small dreams. And I had let them. I'd worn that mask so long it started to feel real. But not tonight. Not anymore. The weight of my silence had become too much. The longer I sat there, the more I knew this double life had an expiration date, and it was about to hit. I wasn't just going to speak up, I was going to change everything. I could feel the weight of their eyes on me, even when no one said anything. My mother's glances were laced with that familiar, soft disapproval, like she pitied the choices I had made. My father barely looked at me at all. His silence was louder than words, his cold indifference something I'd grown used to over the years, but it was Claire who cut the deepest. Her smiles always came with a sharp edge, her words always dressed in a kind of politeness that felt like a slap in disguise. She had made a career out of belittling me, wrapping her insults in sarcasm and silk blouses, never once thinking that I might actually be more than what she saw. And honestly, why would she? I let them all believe I was just the girl with the vintage shop, the side character, the failure, who had somehow made peace with being small. But that night, something shifted. I sat there and thought about all the holidays, all the birthdays, all the little digs I had swallowed like bitter pills, the way they dismissed my ambition, the way they made me feel invisible, like I could disappear and no one would notice as long as Claire was shining in the spotlight. And she always did. She looked like everything they wanted, a picture-perfect daughter with a tailored life and a resume to match. I saw it in their faces every time she spoke. The pride, the admiration, the belief that this was what success looked like. Claire had their validation, and I had a storefront no one in that room had ever even visited. "How's your little shop in Brooklyn doing, Emma?" she asked without even glancing up from her phone. The words were so casual, so sharp. They sliced right through the air between us. I had heard that line before, but tonight it hit differently. I felt the heat rise in my chest, the burn behind my eyes. Not from shame, no, that feeling had burned out a long time ago. What I felt now was pressure, years of silence pushing to the surface. They had no idea that the little shop was a front, a mask I had worn while building something far bigger than any of them could imagine. And in that moment I realized something. They weren't just underestimating me, they had never really seen me at all, but they would. Very, very soon. I had built Horizon Capital from the ground up, quietly, methodically, without anyone in my family ever knowing. It wasn't just a company, it was a machine that moved billions, steered the course of investments, and silently influenced Wall Street behind the scenes. And somehow, after all that, I was still sitting there in my family's living room, nodding politely, pretending to be the same disappointment they'd always known. I forced a smile even as my stomach twisted. "We're doing fine, Claire," I said, my voice flat. "The shop's doing just fine." But the words felt like poison in my mouth, because the truth was screaming inside me, clawing its way out. They still thought I was nothing, that I had wasted my potential, that all I'd managed was some tiny storefront in Brooklyn, but I had built an empire. I had outgrown them in every way, and yet they still looked right through me like I didn't matter. I wanted to shout, to break the silence I'd protected for years, to make them see who I really was. Not for revenge, just to finally be seen, just once. And then it happened. The doorbell rang. Sharp. Sudden. The tension in the room snapped like a string pulled too tight. My mother's eyes lit up instantly, her hand fluttering toward her wineglass as she stood. "James is here," she said, her voice practically giddy. "Claire, go, greet him." And just like that, the entire room shifted. They didn't know that James, the CEO of Sterling & Pierce, the man they worshipped for promoting Claire, wasn't there to see her. He wasn't there because of her accomplishments. He was there because of me. Because of the deal I had closed. Because Horizon Capital, my company, had just finalized a complete acquisition of Sterling and Pierce. And tonight, the secret I had held onto for so long was about to blow everything apart. They were about to realize that the person they had overlooked, dismissed, even pitied, had become the most powerful person in the room. They had no idea, not my mother, not my father, not even Claire. They all believed James, the CEO of Sterling and Pierce, was just stopping by for a friendly Christmas visit, maybe to congratulate Claire on her latest promotion. But James wasn't here because of Claire. He was here because of me. Because I had made this moment happen. I had planned it down to the second. You won't believe how far my mother-in-law went. She told my entire family that I was forcing my baby girl to be trans. Then she tried to kidnap her. Yeah, let that sink in. It didn't stop there. She went on a full-blown crusade to save my child from me. And the scariest part? She actually thought she was the hero. This is the same woman who wore a long ivory gown with a veil to my wedding. Dead serious. She wanted to outshine the bride. That was my first real glimpse into just how delusional she was. And trust me, that was only the beginning. You'd think the first red flag would have stopped me, but honestly, nothing about my husband's family surprised me anymore. I had already accepted they were dysfunctional beyond belief. I still remember the first time I visited his brothers, Thomas and Michael. It was a scorching 90 degrees outside, but inside their apartment they had the air conditioning blasting, so cold I could see my breath. I asked politely, "Hey, would it be okay if I turned down the AC just a bit?" And suddenly Thomas exploded. "So we let you into our home, and now you think you can make demands?" His face was red, his voice loud enough to shake the walls. Michael didn't say a word, but his fists turned white from how tightly he clenched them. Honestly, compared to their mother, those two were saints. I met her properly at Michael's birthday. She waited all of 10 minutes before, out of nowhere, she started airing out Thomas's private business, his weight, his personal issues, like it was gossip hour. But the worst part? When she was alone with Thomas, she said the same toxic things about Michael. That's when I realized this wasn't forgetful or careless. It was calculated. It was how she kept control. By turning them against each other, she made sure the spotlight never left her. After the white dress stunt at our wedding, you'd think I'd learned my lesson. But deep down, I still wanted our future kids to know their grandma. So when it came time for our gender reveal party, I invited her, kind of. The party started at 7:30 p.m., I told her 9. I figured less time, less drama. But of course, she walked in right as I was cutting the cake. Blue frosting spilled out, and my whole face lit up. My husband twirled me around, and for a moment I thought it was perfect. Until I looked around. Everyone else? Smiling like flight attendants, polite, fake, strained. Then came the gifts. Every single one was screaming boy. Tiny blue shoes, dino toys, trucks. That's when it hit me. She had known. Somehow she found out and decided to hijack our moment. So we pulled her aside, and before we even said a word she smiled and said, "I hope you're here to thank me." My husband asked what she meant, and her answer nearly broke me. "I found out it was a boy. I made sure the gifts were right. You've had your whole life to be the center of attention. Can't you just give us one night?" Those words froze me. It wasn't just control anymore, it was a power play. That night changed everything. My mother-in-law's face flushed deep red as she stared at me like I had ruined her entire life. My husband didn't argue. He didn't yell, he simply grabbed her shoes and coat, handed them to her, and opened the door. Quiet. Final. We thought that was the end of it. The pregnancy went smoothly, so instead of spending on another ultrasound, we used that money to build Oliver's room. My husband did it all. Painted the walls blue, installed shelves, even put up Spider-Man lights from IKEA, while I sat with swollen feet, too sore to help. He was so proud, so sure. Until delivery day, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl, Emma. Not Oliver. I was dazed, emotional, and furious. My husband lost it. He turned to his mom, who was waiting just outside, and hissed, "What the hell is wrong with you?" She just laughed. Loud, ugly, so loud it echoed off the hospital walls. Even the nurses looked disgusted. He had her escorted out by security, and I realized this wasn't just dysfunction. This was betrayal, deliberate, cruel betrayal. When my husband returned, he looked me in the eyes and said, "We're cutting all contact with her. Emma will never have to deal with her grandmother's toxicity." It was a relief, but I had no idea how much worse things were about to get. Just a few days later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, still in my milk-stained pajamas, to find a child protective services worker standing there. She had an AirPod in one ear blasting Cardi B and was chewing gum loudly. Without waiting for an invitation, she brushed past me and headed straight to Emma's room. "Yep, just as I thought," she muttered, scanning the nursery. Then she turned to me and said, "We received an anonymous complaint that you're forcing your baby daughter to be transgender. Do you have a contact where your baby girl could go?" I was stunned. Tears welled up in my eyes as I tried to process the absurdity of the situation. I hadn't showered in 2 days, and now I was being accused of something so outrageous. After a thorough inspection and a lot of explaining, the CPS worker concluded there was no issue and left. But the damage was done. My husband and I decided we couldn't stay near his mother any longer. Within weeks, we found a new home far enough away that we hoped she wouldn't find us. Moving with a newborn was exhausting, but we knew it was necessary for Emma's safety and our peace of mind. The first few months in our new place were blissful. Emma was thriving, my husband found a better job, and I was starting to feel like myself again. We chose a neighborhood with good schools, friendly neighbors, and most importantly, no connections to my mother-in-law. But peace never lasts when you have someone like her in your life. It started with a Facebook message from Michael, my husband's brother. "Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you guys in a while." It seemed innocent enough, but something felt off. Michael had never been the type to check in. A week later, Thomas called my husband, furious about something trivial. They talked for almost an hour about sports and work. Nothing about the move, nothing about his mother. It was all too normal. "Do you think she put them up to it?" I asked. My husband shrugged. "Maybe, but they're still my brothers." I didn't push it, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched. My suspicions were confirmed when a package arrived addressed to Baby Oliver. Inside was a blue blanket and a note. "Grandma loves you." I threw it in the trash, my hands shaking. How did she know where we lived? We decided we weren't leaving. That night, we installed security cameras and changed the locks. The next day, I was at the grocery store with Emma when I felt someone watching me. I turned down the cereal aisle and there she was, my mother-in-law, standing at the other end, staring directly at us. I turned the stroller around so fast I knocked over a display of granola bars. I abandoned my cart and practically ran to the exit, fumbling with my keys as I strapped Emma into her car seat. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw her walking calmly to her car, smiling. She wasn't even trying to follow us. She didn't need to. She'd made her point. That night, we found a business card slipped under our door. It was from a family lawyer specializing in restraining orders and grandparents' rights cases. We hadn't even considered that she might try to use the legal system against us. We met with the lawyer the next day. He assured us that she didn't have a case for grandparents' rights, but that didn't mean she wouldn't try. We filed for a restraining order that afternoon. The process was emotionally draining. I had to relive every moment of her interference, from the white dress at our wedding to the CPS nightmare. For 2 weeks, things were quiet. Then the letters started coming, not to our house, but to my workplace, my husband's office, even our pediatrician. Each one claimed we were unfit parents, that we were confusing our daughter about her gender. My boss called me into their office after receiving one. "I know this is bull," they said, handing me the sealed envelope. Inside was a letter detailing my supposed postpartum psychosis and how I was projecting gender dysphoria onto my infant daughter. It was signed, "A concerned grandmother." She was trying to get me fired. My boss shook their head. "Not happening on my watch, but you might want to give your other references a heads up." I called everyone I could think of, former employers, our landlord, and Emma's daycare. We were under siege, but we weren't going to let her win. Most of my contacts had already received letters filled with horrifying accusations against me and my husband. Some brushed it off, tossing them straight into the trash without a second thought. But others, deeply concerned, picked up the phone immediately to call me. Beth, the director at Emma's daycare, was especially disturbed. She confessed to me quietly, her voice shaking. "Someone's been calling almost every day, asking specific questions about Emma. At first, we genuinely thought it was you, just a concerned mom checking in, but then..." She paused. The voice was older. A chill crawled down my spine. My breath caught in my throat. I gripped my phone so hard that my knuckles turned ghostly white. "Beth, what did you tell her?" Panic seeped into my voice despite trying to hide it. Beth reassured me quickly, sensing my fear. "Nothing specific. She claimed she was the emergency contact while you were supposedly having surgery." She sounded convincing, but thankfully we didn't share sensitive information. I thanked Beth immediately for her honesty, a sense of dread twisting deeper into my chest. After hanging up, I frantically updated all of Emma's emergency contacts, adding secure passwords and explicit instructions to withhold information from anyone claiming to be her grandmother. The restraining order hearing couldn't come soon enough. As days passed painfully slow, my mother-in-law escalated her twisted campaign against us. She took to social media and created a Facebook group boldly titled "Save Oliver," complete with a blue balloon profile picture. Its description made my stomach churn. "Supporting parents of gender-confused children. Special prayers needed urgently for my grandson Oliver, whose parents force him to live as a girl named Emma." Within days, the group exploded to over 200 members. My computer screen's cold blue glow felt harsh and unforgiving as I scrolled through post after vile post. My sister discovered the group first, calling me in tears, her voice shaking with disbelief. "You won't believe it," she sobbed. "She's posting private baby pictures of Emma. I don't even know how she got them, and she's begging these strangers to pray for divine intervention." Anger surged through me, helplessness tightening like a vice around my heart. I immediately reported the group, but Facebook's automated reply felt like another slap in the face, stating coldly that no community guidelines were broken. I sat there, staring blankly at the message, feeling utterly trapped in a nightmare. Just one day before our crucial court hearing, my mother-in-law pulled her most brazen stunt yet. She showed up uninvited at Emma's daycare during pickup time. I arrived to find her proudly standing in the lobby, her perfectly manicured nails flashing as she held court, dramatically showing Emma's photos to a group of unsuspecting mothers. "See? This was him at birth," she declared confidently, her voice dripping with self-righteousness. "They've been forcing this girl act on him since the beginning." Rage erupted inside me, unlike anything I'd ever felt. Every nerve in my body screamed for me to protect my child. I approached swiftly, footsteps echoing sharply on the daycare's shiny floor. Emma's car seat gripped firmly in one hand, my phone set to record in the other. "What exactly do you think you're doing here?" I demanded, voice clear, yet trembling with suppressed fury. She spun to face me, faking surprise masterfully. Her flawlessly applied makeup couldn't hide the venom flashing in her eyes. "Oh, look, it's Oliver's mother. We were just talking about you," she announced loudly. The other parents stood frozen, confused and caught off guard by the escalating tension. One woman, Ashley, a mother of twins, visibly stepped back from my mother-in-law, sensing the toxic atmosphere thickening around us. "You need to leave. Now." My voice steadied as adrenaline surged, courage overtaking my fear. She smiled coldly, adjusting her designer scarf with false elegance. "Is it a crime now to simply get to know the other grandparents?" Her fake sweetness sent a shiver down my spine. Gathering strength, I announced clearly to the parents watching nervously, "This woman has stalked and harassed us relentlessly since Emma was born. She called CPS on us with fabricated accusations. Please do not believe her lies." My voice quivered slightly but never broke. Ashley bravely stepped forward, backing me up. "You should go. This isn't the place for a family feud." Mother-in-law's expression darkened instantly, eyes narrowing dangerously. Pointing at me, she hissed viciously, "This isn't over. That boy deserves better." Turning sharply, she stormed away, leaving behind a stunned silence. The moment the door closed behind her, I sank into a nearby chair, visibly trembling. Beth hurriedly brought me water, which soothed my painfully dry throat. Ashley sat beside me, her voice comforting, as she whispered, "My mother-in-law is challenging too, but nothing like this. We've got your back." Her kind gesture meant more than she could ever know, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of deep violation. The vibrant walls and cheerful decorations of the daycare, a place I thought safe, suddenly felt frighteningly vulnerable. The courtroom hearing finally arrived but felt strangely anticlimactic compared to recent events. Mother-in-law marched in confidently with her sleek lawyer, dressed sharply in an expensive suit, determined to portray her as a concerned grandmother unjustly alienated from her grandchild. The courtroom, stuffy with tension and the scent of old furniture polish, felt unbearably oppressive. Her lawyer smoothly argued, "My client simply wants to see her grandson." The parents clearly struggled to accept their child's true gender. Chris, our lawyer, calmly but firmly presented the mountain of evidence against her. The malicious CPS report, the disturbing Facebook posts, the terrifying daycare incident, the hateful letters sent to our workplaces. The judge, a stern woman with piercing eyes behind thin reading glasses, addressed my mother-in-law directly. "Mrs. Johnson,